Vampires, shadow work, ancestral healing. What do they have in common? Well, I saw a movie, Sinners, and it pulled it all together for me because, true confession, I've always loved vampires since I was a little girl, but I never thought to tie it in with shadow work and ancestral healing. And this movie opened my eyes to something that I hadn't been paying attention to: vampire cinema and shadow work as tools on your journey to heal ancestral trauma. Oh, it fits like a glove. Let me explain. Before we talk about our vampires and the role they can play in healing, let's just pause, take a deep breath, relax, feel the weight of this choice. You're not here by accident. And I have another confession to make. I have a little sympathy for the vampire Remick in this movie, Sinners. He is a villain. He is evil. But he carries a weight, a universal weight that cycle breakers can honestly identify with. Not the bloodlust, but the weight of culture that we carry through our ancestors, through our inheritance, through things that we've learned in our families, and things that are traditions that may not be to our advantage. These are things that can even become toxic over time. In Remick's case, he was turned to a vampire centuries before, and his family, his clan, was long gone. But he had been traumatized because his culture was also being taken from him while he was human. And this carried over the centuries. In a cycle breaker's case, when you are starting your ancestral healing journey, you know that there are things that are going to rock the family's boat. And you're going to decide if it's to your benefit, to change, or to stay status quo. It's a big choice. It's a heavy choice. It's something that's not easy to do. So I have a little sympathy for the vampire. How is a vampire an ancestral mirror? We're going to go a little deep here because in contemporary cinema, vampires are seen as metaphors for addiction, for power, for sexuality, for otherness. They're in the shadows. They're a threat. And that's what we're doing in shadow work. We're looking for our shadows. And who better to help us than a vampire? They're the embodiment of old patterns. They've lived for centuries. They've carried the same weight and the same behaviors. Yes, they've adapted, but the old habits are still there. They're draining your life force. These old patterns drain your life force. These patterns can be people-pleasing, silence, the secrets that we don't tell, rage, control. These things are in every family. You find them carried through the generations. As a cycle breaker, to initiate that change is not an easy task to do. But the first thing you have to do to initiate a change is to be aware of the shadow. Be aware it exists. Acknowledge it. Once you do that, then you have a choice to make. And a choice is powerful because you can choose to take action or not. but it is your choice. In Sinners, the vampires are all part of a hive mind, and we are too. We're conditioned to be that way in society, in community, and in our families. But a change in one person can go out to the whole hive. So think about your choices and the power that you have. You are standing at a precipice. You are not here to shame your ancestors. You are here to alchemize the pain. You are here to make it mean something else. You are here to take back your power. Here's why I love the movie Sinners and why I chose to write a book about it, because I was inspired at how much it mirrored ancestral healing and shadow work, which I am doing and I love doing and I love sharing. So here's what I found, and this is my take on it. There's so many takes on the movie because it's so multifaceted. So this is kind of the take from the vampire's point of view. The vampire did not decide to cure himself. He did not want to become human. No, he was very conscious of his choices and what he wanted to do. He was motivated. He knew what he was doing and he was going to do it. He chose who he was going to feed from. He knew who was vulnerable and he knew who had the talent that he wanted to absorb for his own power and for his own pleasure. He chose to walk in the world the way he wanted to walk in the world. He chose to go to America. He didn't stay in his native country, probably a few reasons why, but he made his choices. He walked in the world as he chose to walk in the world. And he chose himself. That's not a negative thing, even though he's pretty monstrous. He chose himself to survive. And so did the sinners. And that was the beauty of the conflict in the movie, because there was so much motivation on both sides. I'm taking the vampire's perspective because it suits this lesson. It suits my perception, my feeling, and I don't know. I like vampires. But if you're listening and wondering if this is the right time for you to do this work, if this is the right work for you, I would say you are already doing it. Every time you say no to a toxic pattern, every time you pause before reacting, think about it. Every time you say to yourself, is this mine? You are healing yourself and a generation. That is pretty cool. Well, I have an invitation for you in the vampire tradition. And the invitation is to take a big step, well, even a small step, into your shadow work, your ancestral healing, and your transformation process. Using the vampire cinema because it's a fun way and a relevant way to put it together in a meaningful way. And that's the key. It needs to be meaningful to you. My book is all about vampire cinema and shadow work and ancestral healing. So, yeah, you might take a look at that. But what I'll be doing is a series of these podcasts so that we can get the feel for this and see if it works for you. The key is going to be at journaling. So I'd like to give you a couple of journal prompts, an affirmation, and a teeny little ritual at the end so that you can get started, get a feel for it, see if you like it. So we'll get started with the journal prompt, which is, what part of your family legacy have you been afraid to look at? And what might happen if you met it with curiosity instead of fear? It's some place to start. Write it in your journal. See where it takes you. Now, your affirmation is, I am the bridge between the wounds of my past and the wisdom of my future. After this episode, you might want to take a few minutes. If you like candles, love them myself, you could light a candle and write this down or whisper it to the shadows. You are not alone. You are not broken. You are becoming. I hope you'll enjoy this series. I will tell you a little bit more about what's coming next. Well, what's next in our series? I thought I'd take a little mother-daughter trip. And Byzantium is an awesome vampire movie about a mother and daughter vampire team. It's interesting in how that transpired. And it illustrates that vampirism in families is not as unusual as it seems, although it's a little unusual in this movie. I think you will love it. In the meantime, I hope that you can remember, just like the movie in Sinners, we're all sinners. That doesn't make you bad. Nobody's perfect. How boring would that be? Think so. It asks you to be awake to yourself, awake to patterns, awake to things that might be sabotaging you on your journey in life. It asks you to see your reflection. Now, a vampire doesn't see a reflection in a mirror because things are hidden from your sight sometimes. That's why we look into the shadows to see the real total picture, even if it's not pretty at first glance. It's who we are, and once we embrace it, well, we can see what we do with our flaws as well as with our assets. And you have a chance to rewrite your story, which is so cool. You can redirect your movie. Please join me with these vampire cinema reviews and see how it ties in to shadow work and ancestral healing. I promise you, it brings a little fun into a very serious and a tough journey. Now, there are other videos all about ancestral healing and many about ancestral healing and shadow work. There's probably one right up here somewhere that you can take a look at. Please do. Please join me on this journey. Bring your journal to the journey, and we will have a good time exploring vampire cinema, shadow work, and ancestral healing. My book is on Amazon. You can check it out if you're interested. But you don't need it. You can just hop on, bring your journal, your favorite beverage, and we'll discuss scary movies. Thank you so much. This is Vicki Trancho saying a big thank you and